Recording in progress. This is Matthew chapter 1. Verse 1, the record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Then Matthew follows this sentence with 17 verses of genealogy. Now, that's not a way to begin a book. Normally, you want to start with something interesting, a story, something to get people's attention. But he starts with this, and there's a reason for it, which we'll see in a minute here. But first, look at the wording here, the record of the genealogy. Now, there's a translation issue here, which, it may not mean much in itself, but there's something behind it that is important. This word genealogy, it gives the idea that it's only talking about the record of the genealogy is just the next 17 verses. Is that what he's talking about here? Actually, no. But there's a bigger issue at hand here, bigger thing here. The first, the words, the record of the genealogy is two words in Greek, biblos, genesios. And that is found in the Old Testament twice in the exact way, in the exact type of a situation. And this is the important thing. Now remember, we've referred to this before in other classes. The New Testament was written in Greek. Okay, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew and Aramaic. And these are Hebrew and Aramaic are very similar. Greek is very different. So when you have the Old Testament and New Testament and Hebrew and Greek, and try to compare them, it's very difficult because you're dealing with very different languages. But about 300 years before the time of Christ, the Old Testament was translated into Greek. They call this Septuagint. Now you can compare, you can see a certain word or phrase in the New Testament and can find where it's used in the Old Testament. Now you may think, well, is that just a coincidence? Well, actually, if you look at a Greek Bible, Greek New Testament, it lists all the places in the Old Testament where the wording is very similar, whether it's a quote or just, and you realize this happens thousands of times. So when you see a similar wording in the New Testament and in the Old Testament, there's a good, strong possibility. I say that the writer of the New Testament knows the Old Testament. I mean, you see how many times that this is used, you realize that. So what that meaning in the Old Testament helps you to understand the New Testament. Okay, so you go to your notes. Now the Greek word here for that genealogy, Genesis, which is Genesis, the same word. Now the book of Genesis had the title Genesis at this time. So when Matthew begins the record of the book of Genesis, I mean, it could immediately refer the reader back to the book of Genesis. That's literally what it is. Now you can see here on page 1 of the notes, it can mean generation, offspring, nativity, birth. The Hebrew word toledoth generally means generations, but it has a special usage. You can see 11 times in the book of Genesis, this introduces a person's history. At the bottom of page 1, I have these verses: Genesis 2:4, Genesis 5:1, Genesis 6:9. And the key passages here, like in Genesis, let's do Genesis 6:9. These are the generations of Noah. Now, it doesn't give then Noah's genealogy, it begins Noah's history. In Genesis 37, Genesis 37 is the story of Joseph. But actually what it begins by, these are the generations of Jacob. So it's giving the history of Jacob through his family. And then you go back to, now this exact wording that begins Matthew's gospel is found exactly in Genesis 2:4 and Genesis 5:1. And so basically what it is saying is that you could translate this, that the record of the beginning, the book of the history of Jesus Christ, the book of the account of Jesus Christ. This is about Jesus, the beginning. When, by this time the church has been around for several decades or more, and so this is the record of the beginning, how this all started. Jesus is the Greek version. Well, it's the Greek version of a Hebrew name. These are Jewish people. So that the Hebrew word for Jesus, page 3 of the notes, it could be Yehoshua or Yeshua, either one. Both of them mean salvation. Jehoshua means Jesus or Jehovah is salvation. But the Greek version of that is Jesus. Joshua is that word in Hebrew. So in the Greek Bible, Greek Old Testament, when it talks about Joshua, the word is Jesus. Now, it's not just a coincidence that in the Old Testament, Joshua leads the people into the promised land. And when you're reading that in Greek, you're reading Jesus is leading the people to the promised land. Now, it's not just a coincidence. Okay, it's pictures of higher realities. The word Christ, Jesus Christ is not Jesus' last name. Okay, Christ is a title. In Greek, it's Christos, which means anointed. In Hebrew, anointed is Mashiach, or in English, it's Messiah. So a Jewish person reading this is the account of Jesus Messiah. Now, in the middle of page 3 here, it says that 16 times, the book of Matthew, it mentions the word Christ. And each time it's not Jesus Christ as a name, like sometimes Paul uses, but it focuses on Jesus' identity as the Messiah. So Matthew is presenting Jesus as the Messiah that the Israelites were expecting. Then it says the son of David, the son of Abraham. Okay, we know that the Messiah is supposed to come through the line of David. But why does he say the son of Abraham? If you say the son of David, he doesn't need to say the son of Abraham, because the son of Abraham is the son of David. So why would Matthew trace the genealogy of Jesus back to Abraham? Well, it turns out that Matthew includes some people in this genealogy that wouldn't ordinarily be there. 4 people, to be precise, and these 3 of them lived, lived before David. So Matthew wants to get them all in here. First, there's Tamar. Now, I don't have that verse 3 or so. I don't have this up here like this. In fact, why don't I just move this over here? And okay, Tamar, that's in verse 3. Now, who is Tamar? Now, this is a story, you need to see it. Genesis 38. And it came about at that time that Judah is in the line of Christ. We know that. Okay. Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. He saw, he saw a daughter of a certain Canaanite. Her name was Shua. And it doesn't say that he married her. Well, so Shua, he took Shua. Okay, and Shua had a child from him named she had another child, Onan, and a third child, Sheila. Now the kids grow up. Judah gets this is verse 6. He took a wife for his firstborn. And her name was Tamar. Okay, now verse 7, Judah's firstborn was evil in the sight of the Lord, so the Lord took his life. Does God still do that today? I would say no, but I wouldn't say he wouldn't. But in the Old Testament, God is trying to teach people what things are about. So, but sometimes, like the first examples of this, like in the law, there are people who collected sticks on the Sabbath day. God had them stoned. Would he still want them stoned today? I don't think so. But by having them stone them, they get the idea how serious this thing is. So had no children. So it was common then, if a man dies without having children, that his brother would assume the role of the husband to his wife and raise up children to the husband. So Onan was second in line, and Judah said, okay, take the wife is Tamar is your wife, and raise up offspring. And he went in, but he didn't complete the act. Said he wasted his seed in the ground. So he didn't want to give offspring to his brother. And the Lord took his life too. And Judah at this point was afraid to give Tamar to Sheila. I can imagine why here. After a time, Judah's wife dies. Time of mourning, and he goes off on business away from home. And so Tamar, what Tamar does, she goes there, disguises herself, the veil and all that stuff. And she, gave the impression to him that she was a harlot, a hooker. Then Judah said, hey, how much, what would it cost to spend some time together? And she said, well, what would you give me? He said, I'll send you a goat. And she said, well, can you give me a pledge of some sort till you send it? I know you're going to do this. And he says, well, verse 18, what should I give you? Well, your seal, your cord, your staff. The things that you do. That's like, give me your driver's license and your house keys, something like that. And he gave it to her. They had sex. She went on her way. She went back home, and it turns out she got pregnant. 3 months later, everybody finds out, hey, Tamar is pregnant. What's going on here? And Judah said, well, she's bring her out. He said, let her be burned. I mean, they didn't put up with, unfaithfulness. And she says, well, the man is the one who this is his wallet and his driver's license. Do you recognize the picture on there? And Judah said, oh, okay.
Oh my gosh. So he's doing a double life kind of thing. He's trying to do what's right in the eyes of the law, sort of, but his personal life is shambles because he's out fooling around.
They had the Bible doesn't say a lot. Oh, okay. First of all, how to put it? I'll mention this with Rahab. If you were a virgin, and now when I say virgin, I mean a single woman in Israel's time was you assume they're a virgin. It's not like today where people just sleep around and that's okay. If you were to have sex with a virgin and you got caught, you had to marry that woman, and you couldn't divorce her for any reason because you had humbled her. If you had sex with this woman, and say she was engaged to somebody, and you had sex with her, and you got caught. Now, if you were in the city, and in the civilization there, and you both got caught, you both would be stoned to death. If it's out in the country, and you got caught, only the man, because it would be assumed that the woman called for help. Now, how am I going to put this?
Is that Old Testament? Because that's not what happened with the woman in Jesus' day. They were going to kill her. They were going to stone her.
Well, we don't know. We don't know about the man. Okay, where was,
Well, there was no mention. It said that they caught them in the act, but there's no mention of the man being punished in any way.
Okay, so
It was only her.
Well, I would assume then that this was in town, so she's culpable. The man, I don't know why. Maybe they don't need two to just make their point. They just want to get the. I don't know. It doesn't say. We don't know. I'm gonna just not get into that there. No, there's. I just don't want to get you too far off here. So Tamar finally has children. She has twins, Perez and Zerah, and these are in the genealogy, Zerah from Tamar. Okay, so here's Tamar, and on the next page I call her an unlawful. It's an unlawful union. In the law, Leviticus 18:15. It's on page 3 of the notes. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. You shall not uncover her nakedness. So, but the law was written then, but this is a picture of what God's will is. And the Jews who read this would see this. Okay, then, verse 5, Salmon begat Boaz from Rahab. Okay, well, who is Rahab? Well, that's Joshua chapter 2. We don't need to read so much of this, it's not that complicated, but Joshua chapter 2, verse 1. Now, this is the Israelites are coming to the promised land before they actually entered the land. They sent out spies, 2 spies. They came to Jericho. And so if you're strangers, where do you stay? Well, apparently it wasn't hard to find a house of a harlot. I would imagine, I didn't really study all this, but imagine that this is often a place for travelers to stay. I mean, they lodge there. While you're lodging there, there's their entertainment, whatever. But she was a harlot. The Bible doesn't say much about harlots as far as sin, as far as evil. You read the Leviticus laws. In those days, okay, the life expectancy of a man was not long, considering wars and things of that sort. So I'm guessing there are a lot of widows in Israel's time. And if you're a widow, you don't get a job at Whole Foods or somewhere. A lot of them resorted to prostitution just to get by. Anyhow, though, but Rahab was a harlot. So here, Matthew, in talking about Jesus' genealogy, he talks first about a woman who had sex with her father-in-law, then a woman who was a harlot, and then there's Ruth. Now, Ruth was not a bad person, but she was a Moabite. Now, so what? Well, look at the bottom of page 3, Deuteronomy 23, 3 and 4. No Ammonite or Moabite shall enter the assembly of the Lord. None of their descendants, even to the 10th generation, shall ever enter the assembly of the Lord, because they did not meet you with food and water on the way when you came out of Egypt. And because they hired against you Balaam the son of Beor from Pethor of Mesopotamia to curse you. Is that a harsh thing? You know, I admit I did not try to really think through all the ramifications of that. I'm sure there are some, and I apologize for that. But the fact was that there was this law. In fact, if you go to is it Nehemiah? I think it's, let me see, Nehemiah. Yeah, Nehemiah 13. It's not in the notes. You can just write it down there if you want. Nehemiah 13:1. On that day, they read aloud from the book of Moses in the hearing of the people, and there was found written in it that no Ammonite or Moabite shall ever enter the assembly of God. Why did it say never? It's a 10 generation. Well, so when they heard in verse 3, they excluded all the foreigners from Israel. Okay, now Ruth would have been in this category, but again, page 4 of the notes here, Ruth 3:11. Now, my daughter-in-law, do not fear. I will do for you whatever you ask, for all my people in the city know that you are a woman of excellence. This expression, woman of excellence, so just below that is the Hebrew word kyle. It means strength, efficiency, wealth, army. It's a common expression in the Old Testament. A lot of times we talk about the mighty men of valor, brave soldiers, very capable soldiers. And it's also used of a woman in Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31, verse 10, an excellent woman, who can find? For her worth is far above jewels. And then the rest of the chapter tells about this woman of excellence, an excellent woman. Well, it's the same expression here that's used in Ruth to describe Ruth. The woman, Ruth, is an excellent woman, a woman of valor. So calling a person of valor is one of the highest compliments that you could pay a person in the Bible. But Ruth was a Moabite. Okay, then there's a fourth woman, Bathsheba. Now, Bathsheba isn't even mentioned by name in Matthew here. Verse 6, David begat Solomon out of her who was of Uriah. Does he mention her by name? Why? Well, maybe because she's the belonged to another man, and she was the less whatever. But maybe just wanted to emphasize here that she belonged to somebody else. And now that I think about this, just keep that in mind here. She was, in this sense, she was different from the other ones, the other women before her. Now, was Bathsheba culpable because she had relations with David? Now, if the king asks you to come to his house or his bedroom, I don't think many women would say no. Although I think some would if they protest and say, "Oh, but Lord, I'm married to someone else." Maybe but she didn't. Some people think that she was bathing in the middle of the day and she knew that she could be seen. However, but the point is, they had relations. She got pregnant. When David found out that she was pregnant, he contrived a plot to have her husband killed in battle. And he was. So he was essentially a murderer, an accomplice. But the focus here is on that woman of the wife of Uriah. Now, what's interesting here, and page 5 of the notes here, they had a child, and God judged the child, so to speak. The child died. When David had sex with Bathsheba, you can be sure that everybody knew about it. I mean, you can't keep a secret in the temple staff there, and it got around everybody. Everybody knew that David had, Bathsheba. Of course, they may not thought it was so critical because kings had multiple wives, and however, but because it was done publicly, the child died. But then in 2 Samuel 12, verses 24 and 25, then David comforted his wife. He took her as his wife after Uriah died, and went into her and lay with her, and she gave birth to a son, and he named him Solomon. Now Solomon became the greatest king over the nation of Israel. David had a lot of sons, but this is the one that God chose to be king over Israel. Now the Lord loved him. Now this isn't said by any of David's other sons, and sent word through Nathan the prophet, and he named him Jedediah for the Lord's sake. Jedediah is this, I should have just, it means like beloved of the Lord. That's the name that God called him. So that child born of this union, God richly blessed. Now, why did Matthew do all this? Well, because if you go down to verse 18, talking about Jesus' mother, Mary, while she was engaged to Joseph, was found to be pregnant of the Holy Spirit. But who knew that? Nobody knew that but Mary. In fact, you read it in Luke chapter 1, it doesn't give all the details, but Mary had a cousin, Elizabeth, who was pregnant with John the Baptist. She was 6 months along when the angel Gabriel came to Mary. When Mary learned that she would bear this child, Jesus, she went and spent 3 months with Elizabeth, probably until Elizabeth had her baby. So she comes back to Nazareth, 3 months pregnant, and this is probably, or very, very possibly when Joseph found out about this. So she didn't just, when the angel appeared to Mary, it doesn't seem like she immediately went to Joseph and told him what happened. Maybe she, just thought, well, let's see how this plays out. And so Joseph is finding out about this now. That, hey, wait, my wife is pregnant. And he wanted to it says to verse 19, he wanted to let her go secretly. But verse 20, while he was thinking about this, behold, an angel of the Lord in a dream appeared to him. Now, is it 6 times or 5 times? I think it's 5. I had the counter somewhere. 6 times in the book of Matthew, dreams are mentioned. 3 different people. Joseph, the Magi, and Pilate's wife. Each time the dream meant something to them. Some of them, like here, it said that the angel Lord appeared to him in a dream. Page 6 in the notes here. Dreams are very important in the Bible. In fact, I have the names here: Abimelech, Laban, Jacob, Pharaoh, Pharaoh's servants, Joseph, the prophets, a Midianite, Solomon, Nebuchadnezzar, and old men in the last days. These are all people in the Bible that had dreams that were significant. I mean, major significant. I mean, in the Pharaoh's dreams, he dreamt of corn stalks and cows. And Joseph says that, well, this is a prophecy about your nation, what's going to happen in a few years. Nebuchadnezzar had dreams about statues. And they were dreams of world empires. So dreams in the Bible are important. I've often learned, now I can't say if I have had dreams where God spoke to me in a dream, but I've often had somebody speak to me in the middle of the night. Maybe not in a dream, but it's just that the words came to me. I mean, if I hear something in the middle of the night, I pay attention. Often it's also sometimes early in the morning when I just wake up. I mean, it just comes to my head something, and I said, I know it's from God. That's why, like a long time ago, I stopped using alarm clocks. I didn't want to wake up to a news or music, because then you forget your dreams. You just kind of you jolt into the day. But I want to wake up naturally, and I want to pay attention to dreams, because in the Bible, they are significant. Maybe not every single one. I used to study dreams. I used to study Carl Jung. I think he had the wisest insights and dreams as far as secular psychologists. But anyhow, the more you do it, the more you can understand it. But anyway, in the Bible, dreams are important. So I always say today, dreams are important. So verse 21, she will bear a son. You should call his name Jesus. For he, emphasize, will save his people from their sins. We mentioned about the word Jesus. The name Jesus means salvation. So a lot of times in the Bible, they say, you call this person this, because then he will do something, and what he will do is based on that name. There are a couple verses in the Old Testament, this is on page 7 of the notes, where they think that this was based on that. In Judges 13:5, the angel tells Samson's mother, behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, which sounds similar to this. And he, emphasized, like it's emphasized here, shall begin to save Israel from the hands of the Philistines. So some Bible scholars believe that Matthew saw Jesus as like a second Samson, who would play the role of a judge or deliverer. Others see Psalm 30 in verse 8 as where this was taken from. And he, again emphasized, will redeem Israel from all his iniquities. Close, but not quite here. But again, what these Bible teachers are doing, they're seeing connections between how something is expressed in the New Testament and how it's expressed in the Old Testament. And we're going to see later, I did a paper on the Beatitudes, where you trace like all the Beatitudes in the Greek Old Testament, and it's powerful stuff, really. But we'll get to that. Okay, verse 22 here. Now, the angel tells Joseph that Mary is pregnant from the Holy Spirit. She'll bear a son. She'll call his name Jesus. He will save his people from their sins. And this came about that might be fulfilled, was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which is interpreted God with us, or with us is God. Now, some people are going to complain. Okay, this is from Isaiah 7:14. Now, you go to Isaiah 7:14, and you're not going to see it here so much. Like, first of all, the Hebrew word virgin here. Now, there's two Hebrew words that can be translated virgin. Bethulah means a virgin. But the word here is Alma, which doesn't strictly mean virgin. It means a young woman who's, mature. I mean, she's past puberty. She's a woman. She can be very young. And of course, in those days, you don't have, women just having casual sex, like we said. If a woman was young, you assume she's a virgin. So what it says, the Lord shall give you a sign, and this is reading from Isaiah. Behold, a young woman, or a virgin, shall be with a child. Now, the Greek Old Testament is translated by Parthenos, which is a virgin, for sure. And Matthew, like usual, when they quote the Old Testament, they usually quote from the Greek. Sometimes they'll translate the Hebrew, but usually just quote the Greek right off there. So when people say, well, it doesn't really say virgin, well, yes and no, because you don't have, like I say, promiscuous young women back in those days. But the fact that he's quoting from the Greek Old Testament, yeah, it is a virgin. Matthew 20, verse 24, 25. This is interesting. Matthew 20, verse 24. Joseph arose from the dream. He did as he was instructed by the angel, and took, it says literally, he took his wife. That's the Greek, literally, and was not knowing her until she bore a son and called his name Jesus. Now, verse 25, what does that mean to you? Right? I mean, to me, okay, he took his wife and he wasn't knowing her, and knowing is the Bible euphemistic word for having sex. He didn't have sex with her until she bore a son, called his name Jesus. Now, I think most people reading this would say that after Mary had a child, then they became like regular married people and had sex. However, Roman Catholics, do not believe that Mary ever had sex. She was a perpetual virgin. So when we come to verse 25, they find a number of times in the Bible where there are certain expressions like this, and they say, it doesn't say what happened after that. Like when Jesus says in Matthew 28, behold, I will be with you always, even to the end of the age. Now, does that mean he won't be with them after the end of the age? It's just like an expression. And so they're saying that it's only just saying that he didn't have sex with her before she had the child. Well, what would be the point of that if I mean, if she was perpetually a virgin after that time, what would be the point of wording it like that? I mean, I think the natural assumption would be that she had a child, or they had resumed or began a normal marriage after she had the child. But you read the Catholic commentaries, they go to great lengths to try to show that it doesn't say that. No, it doesn't say that. It just says up until the time, and it's silent about what happens after that. You can be the judge, or you think about that. Now, what I wrote here, and this is on the bottom of the last page here, I submit that if Mary indeed remained a virgin until she died, Matthew would have said so instead of wording it as he did. In this case, in these verses, it says that Joseph took Mary as his wife. Anyone would have assumed that he and his wife had relations when he did so. So Matthew's comment here is only that he didn't do this until she gave birth. So you should be aware that in the Catholic Church, this is what they teach, this is what they believe. And you read the commentaries, they make the case for it, but I don't find it convincing. And with that, I'm going to